welcome to the most entertaining, engaging, and charismatic podcast. I am your host, the most charismatic man in entertainment. And before we get into this episode, I do want to give a quick shout out to the host of my platform, Anchor, aka known as now as Spotify for Podcasters. They do a great job helping me continue my podcast and giving me tools and allowing my podcast to grow in many ways that I never thought it could. So shout out to Spotify Anchor for being such an amazing platform for me. And if anybody wants to start a podcast, I highly recommend you start with them. Um, you know, I woke up this morning. I've been feeling like crap all week. I don't know if it's allergies or COVID. I don't know, but I've been feeling like crap all week. Woke up this morning, breath stinking. Uh, you know, I, I had a plan today, and I saw this topic pop up again um, because new developments came up. This is something that happened 2 weeks ago. And at first, when I first heard about this topic, me and Dimitri heard about this. I was livid. I wanted to jump right on the microphone and talk about it, but cooler heads prevailed, and I gave myself some time to think about this. And this morning, I wake up and I see a lot of the New York Post, New York Times, a bunch of people chiming in, and new developments coming in. Jordan Neely, distorted Jordan Neely, someone I used to see a lot growing up as a kid, um, tragically murdered May 1st and actually May 2nd. Sorry, May 2nd. And before we get into it though, let's bring Dimitri in. How you doing, man? How's life going?
What's happening, brother? Everything's all good. Taking it day by day, staying balanced.
Nah, that's a fact. Same, man. Um, this topic is something, before I get into it, I also want to say increasingly I've been staying away from very too controversial topics just because I want to do stuff that's more fun, a little more less negative. But this is something that I have a lot of experience with. I've met a lot of people in Jordan Neely's position before. I've worked with them, I talked to them, I've seen it firsthand, up close and personal. So this is something that really hits home a little bit for me. But just give a quick rundown. This happened in New York City. Jordan Neely, little background. I actually knew Jordan Neely. I didn't know him personally. But when I was in middle school and high school, he used to dance on a train that I used to take to school. I'd take my ex-girlfriend home in Brooklyn, going back home in the Bronx. It was the Orange Line. So in New York and TA, we had the Orange Lines. So it would be the BD and F train. And he was known as the Michael Jackson impersonator. He was a great guy. I remember many times seeing him on 125th Street, putting on his Michael Jackson outfit, practicing his dance moves. So when he gets on the train, he could entertain and perform. And it's a big culture in New York. A lot of subway performers are very known around the city. Widely respected. They provide great entertainment. People give them money, and they do a great job. And Jordan Neely was a young guy who was just trying to, share his passion and his creativity and love for Michael Jackson. And he was a great guy, great performer. Many people highly respected him. He started no trouble. He was just here to entertain. And, I haven't seen Jordan Neely in a while. When I graduated from high school, I went away for college. And the last time I saw him, he was a completely different person than I remember. But for many people, he's still regarded as the Michael Jackson guy. But nonetheless, on May 2nd, he was on the F train going downtown. He was on the train and he was suffering mental illness. A lot of people didn't know it at the time, besides family and friends. But he apparently had an episode. So he came on a train and he was acting erratic and yelling and screaming, "I'm hungry, I'm starving, I need food. I don't really, I'm prepared to die," something like that. And former U.S. Army, actually Marine, I should say, former Marine who just came out the force. He was 24 years old. Uh, uh, Approached him because he was acting erratic, put him in a chokehold, and many people helped subdue him for 15 minutes before the police even showed up. It took the police a while to show up, and by the time the police came, he was pronounced dead. Unfortunate, tragic situation. And this is something that sparked a huge conversation about mental health, about many of the homeless community. Um, and Dimitri, I'm gonna ask you what your thoughts were because I'm sure you heard, you know about this. You're a big Michael Jackson fan, and everything. How do you feel about the situation? Because I see a lot of people saying that this was a hate crime, despite the fact there was multiple different races involved in subduing him. Although the perpetrator, the U.S. Marine, was a white guy. Um, did you feel like this was a hate crime, or do you think this just another day in the reality of how homeless people are treated in our society?
Well, I was the one that said, originally that I took this whole situation as a hate crime, or that's what I label it as. But first and foremost, I was at home, I think, and I was just scrolling through my phone, and I had just recently refollowed the Shade Room on Instagram after a couple of years because they were just posting things that like I just didn't like, so I just unfollowed them. But just to kind of stay up to date as far as what's happening in like pop culture and things like that in the news, I just figured they were a good platform to follow. And among the many posts that they were posting throughout the day, this was one of them. And Jordan Neely, obviously, I never met him personally, but I remember seeing him on World Star almost 10 years ago. I think over 10 years ago, there was a video of him on Times Square, doing, his Michael Jackson thing. And he was getting heckled by like two white guys who obviously were Michael Jackson haters or something. And I remember they were kind of teasing and bullying him to the point where he felt like he had to get physical with them. And mind you, I guess this is way before he became homeless. I guess I'm not sure when that happened, but it hit home for me. Not only him as a black man, but us being in a similar age bracket, and us having that common interest in Michael Jackson. I myself, I could dance like Michael Jackson very well, and he was somebody along that same skill level. And me, I kind of look at it like that could have been me in that situation. And I feel like a lot of times we disassociate ourselves from these situations because it's not us, but because that hit so close to home, I was like, yeah, that could have easily have been me if I was just, God forbid, ever in his situation. And yeah, I think it shouldn't stop at justice. And I think people really need to call it what it is. And it's a hate crime, because I strongly believe that Daniel Penny would not have choked out somebody that looked just like him. I think if it was a white man, I think that empathy would have been there. Um, there wasn't any empathy for Jordan Neely in that situation. And mind you, this is a guy who had been on the street for years. It says he was arrested 42 times by the NYPD. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it sucks. It's unfortunate that it takes a situation like this to highlight what's been going on in New York City for the longest time.
Right.
I've always said that, if I had the means, if I was like mayor or if I was a billionaire or something, I would walk the streets and try to help people out in Manhattan, in New York. I think Manhattan or New York City has like one of the largest population of millionaires, but yet there's so many homeless people on the street. All you got to do is walk on Times Square. You go around the block, you're gonna see somebody laying on cardboard. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And he was one of them. And it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, man. I have a lot of stuff I want to, talk about because this situation is really is a conversation about mental health and the fact that homeless people are treated like lesser than, not even second class. They treated like the scum of the earth. And the fact that, you mentioned, let me say this about Jordan Neely, because I did a little research on him. And like I said, when I last seen him, this was like 4 or 5 years from the last time I saw him as Michael Jackson to the guy who was sleeping on a train. I didn't know about his background, but apparently his mother, he started dancing on a train in 2009. So around 2010-ish, his mother was violently murdered by his stepfather. His sister was violently murdered either right before or right after his mother's murder. And that's when his mental illness started to show up, and he had no support. So he ended up on the street. He stopped dancing and he's sleeping on a train. And I'm gonna get to the part about his family because his family and friends are the people also feel like needs to be held accountable for what happened to him. Because, like you said, he's been arrested 43 times for violent behavior. Apparently, he pushed somebody in the train tracks and all this stuff. And this not in any way, shape, or form to condemn him, but it's really a point for me to say our society really needs to put more emphasis on getting people help. I feel like this situation would have been prevented if they would have gave him the help he needed. Like I said, he was a beloved guy in New York. The mayor even knew who he was. So why, I read a report that he was on the top 50 list of people who needed to be helped in New York City. And he never got any treatment for his mental illness. And many people didn't really care about him until this happened. So I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
you, let me say this. I think a lot of people who are quick to judge. Now, I'm not. I don't know if this was a racially motivated crime itself. Now, what happened after with the guy, the U.S. Marine? I don't know if it's because he was a white guy or because he was a veteran. But clearly, there was some. We don't really care that much. We'll leave it alone until the pushback started, and then they started actually pursuing charges. But I would say this, I worked at a soup kitchen. It's called the Warm House. My college owned this soup kitchen and only in New York, and I worked there for 4 years throughout my entire time there as a college student. And I worked with people who were struggling with addiction, living in halfway houses. Many of the people that was coming to eat and the guests that I grew fond of were low income, homeless, mental illness, all across the board. And there was one guy in particular, Randy. I'll never forget him because he was a great guy. He was a U.S. veteran of 20 years. Um, and I didn't know about the fact that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but he was a great guy. And I remember the police, the first day I started, he was actually arrested by the police and brought in. I later found out he has schizophrenia. So with him, he was a great guy. He'd come in sometimes, he'd say, "Hello, can I help you with anything?" Good. And then 5 minutes later, he just, be in the corner freaking out, threatening to hurt people, kill them. And the police knew him, but they never drew their guns on him. They never came in aggressive at him unless, he came at them with a knife or anything. But usually they just subdued him, put him on a hospital bed, put him in an ambulance, took him out, give him help. And then he come back. And if it ever happened again, they knew the procedure. And he's fortunate. That was a smaller community. The police knew him by name. People knew of him. So he was able to get some help. The problem with New York is a lot of these homeless people don't get help. I've seen the same homeless person on the corner where I'm staying at now for the last year, and he's been sitting in that same spot. And he's a great guy. I had a conversation with him. He makes paintings, and he told me his situation, but he has mental illness too, but he just gets no help at all. And so often people judge, you know, the guy who subdued him and some of the other murders that happened with homeless people in New York. And let me say this too. I grew up in New York, born and raised. I've rode these trains my whole life. I've seen the most craziest things happen. I've seen people get their face slashed. I've seen gangs start fights in the middle of the subway ride. I've seen people get beat up. I've seen guns getting drawn. I've seen homeless people attack people. I've seen it all. So I think people who are quick to vilify, I'm not saying Jordan Neely deserved to die at all. I'm not saying that. But I think people are too quick to look at the veteran and say, "Oh, he's just a convicted, he's a murderer." Lobby him. Like I said, you don't know in New York what happens on these trains. A lot of people don't take these trains. They don't know what's going on these trains, and they're looking at it from the outside in. I've seen it happen. Sometimes you have to act quick. Now, did he have to put him in a chokehold for 15 minutes? No, but at the same time, that's another conversation because I don't know. As a military vet, I know I have a lot of family in the military. A lot of them do suffer from PTSD. And a lot of them didn't even serve on the front lines. Some of them did. They worked in the mechanics. Some of them did. They gave out food and all that stuff. And occasionally they had to go out into the field and help. But a lot of my family has PTSD. Now they was able to get help and treatment. But a lot of veterans don't. They come home. They get sent back to where they came from, and with no therapy, no counseling, no nothing. So let me ask you, Um, do you think our society treats mental health and homeless people with respect, or do you think it, this is the time that we actually are going to have a serious conversation on this stuff?
We won't. I never thought that this country really takes mental health seriously. I don't. Mental health has always been a cliche. You know what I'm saying? Like just something that people talk about, but it's not anything that is ever really taken seriously. Like let's say like a physical ailment. You know, you can't call out of work and say I'm calling out of work because of mental health. They're going to be like, "What are you talking about? You better bring your ass into work." You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it is, and that's how it always been. Now, if you're a regular person and your mental health is not taken into account, then what can be said about homeless people when their own well-being and their basic needs are just bypassed and overlooked because they're homeless, which to me is no excuse in a so-called first world country. So no, I don't think George like this the death of Jordan Neely is going to be the impetus of some sort of mental health change and change for the homeless. No, it's not. Because these things are part of society for a reason, which is why you can get arrested if you were just decide to hand out money or give food to the homeless people in public. Like you've heard of those things before, where somebody will just try to help homeless people, and then the cops will show up and tell them not to. It's all by design. So yeah, we're talking about this, but the problem is there are so many Jordan Neelys right now as we speak in Manhattan. He's not the only one.
Right.
He was part of a top 50 list out of how many people that are homeless in the 5 boroughs? Needless to say about Manhattan or New York City alone. Talking about uptown, and downtown. Like, come on.
No, you're right. And you know what? That's one of the issues that this I hope really sparks a real conversation, because, like you said, he was beloved, and even him, he didn't get the help he needed. And we're talking about somebody who was a local celebrity in New York. Everybody knew who he was. And that's why I highlighted the fact that 43, apparently a couple days, I'm doing a little research on this, a couple days before, he pushed somebody in the train tracks. Now, like I said, I'm not vilifying the man at all. He has mental illness. I can't blame him for acting a certain way. Who I blame is our system. New York failed him. They're failing homeless people. And so often homeless people are treated like that nobody I see people treat homeless, they just walk right by them. I've seen people spit on them. I'll tell you this quick story real quick before I get back to my point. But there's a guy, I think I've told you about him, Central Park Joe. He's influencer on Instagram. Older guys, he does fitness videos for people 60 and up. He was telling me a couple weeks ago, this happened right before the Jordan Neely situation, where he was on the train, he was going to his boxing class, and this homeless man was laying on the subway seats. He was just sleeping. I've seen that. I mean, everybody used to him. You just leave him alone. But this guy, business suit, briefcase, this guy works in corporate America, took it upon himself to antagonize this homeless guy. He was poking him, annoying him, bothering him. Yo, man, I'm trying to sit down, move. That's New York. A lot of people were very aggressive when it comes to sitting on a train. But nonetheless, this guy was just trying to defend himself. This homeless man was trying to defend himself. And he's watching him, this business guy in this nice suit, bother this guy. And then they get in a fight. He beats up the homeless man. The police come. Everybody blames the homeless man, even though he was just defending himself. He was just sleeping, minding his business. And he was telling me that story. He's like, luckily I have videotape. I showed the cops, but they still took the homeless man anyway because he's sleeping on the train. But that really goes to show and highlight how many homeless people are just treated with no regard, at all. And I've met many homeless people, like I said, New York, LA. The last person I actually met during the pandemic, this guy was telling me his story. He's from Wisconsin. He moved to LA to pursue a music career for his family because he had a couple kids and he was trying to make it big. He fell on hard times, ended up on the street. And he's tried many times to get food aid, housing aid, no avail. He's on the street, and I had bought him a cheeseburger. And every time I seen him, we were just talking. He told me about his story. He was sleeping in and in LA, they have camps. Now, many people don't know what that is unless they've been there or lived in LA. But basically, you know how you mentioned this homeless people sleeping on cardboard boxes. LA, they have actual camps. So you'll see blocks and blocks of streets. People have these tents, they'll have RVs, bikes laid around. It's just like a concentration camp, if you will. Just people sleeping on the street, shooting up drugs and all that stuff. And I've seen it in Beverly Hills. I remember I was driving in Beverly Hills and I'm seeing these multi-million dollar homes, and I still see homeless people sleeping on the side of the road. And it's just like no regard for them at all. It's like nobody's taking the initiative to help these people. But yet it takes a Jordan Neely situation for them to even just start to think about it. Someone made a good point, and this leads me to my next question. Someone was saying that there's many organizations out here for the homeless people or people with mental illness. There's a lot of private programs, public programs, or just companies that are dedicated to helping the less fortunate. And yet there's still many homeless people, Jordan Neely included, who is still sleeping on the subways. The police, the MTA are not taking initiative to get these people out the street. What do you think is the biggest issue with it? Do you think our government just don't care? There's lack of funding, or it's a political game? How do you feel about it?
It's all by design, like I said a bit earlier, and I think really there should be a crackdown on the homeless issue in this country, because believe it or not, these people are citizens too, American citizens, and I think there should be resources which they are there, but more conspicuous, and homeless people being pushed in the direction of those resources, like I would say like a placement program, figure out ways to get these people jobs so that way they can do for themselves, steps that that can get them back on their feet, versus it's like you're homeless and then you're just stuck. You're just stuck in homelessness, you're stuck in poverty, which again, I feel like they can crack down on it if they cared enough. But again, it's they're getting something out of these people being homeless. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm pretty sure I can Google it, but they're part of this whole entire system. I'm not sure what part that they play, but there's a reason why, the government, state governments and the federal government can give a damn about people who are homeless. Because it's funny that you mentioned meeting someone who was homeless. I remember a couple of years ago, I stopped to speak to someone who and I think it might have been a woman. I don't remember, but I remember going to Target one time and it was snowing outside, or there was snow, there's been snow. And as I was coming out and I was driving off, there was a woman and a dog who were literally huddled in snow, like huddled in some snow. And I was just like, dude, especially like the dog, you know what I'm saying? I was like, man, so I remember I got out and I gave her some money, and I remember, talking to her. And obviously it's pretty, I have like this was a long time ago, but I just remember her saying that she had gotten laid off of her job, and then it's just been hard for her to rebound from that. And I remember I was just like, damn. And then when I left, obviously I think I might have given her like, $20 or $40 what I had. Obviously I'm not rich. And I remember saying like, dang, like I wish I could have had enough money to like put her up in a hotel or something, just to help. You get what I'm saying? Because I feel like there's no excuse. You got people winning, the lottery, $400 million, lottery winners, but yet you got people who are still on the streets that can't get a job. And I can
Right.
understand if you have those that don't want the help, but I'm pretty sure if somebody were to ask Jordan Neely, like, do you want better for yourself? Like, if I could give you a job, would you take it? They would. It's not like you're like, all right, I could give you this janitor job at this corporate, like some building out in Manhattan. I'm pretty sure he would have taken it if he had the means, because that's a start to better, because he didn't have money to eat. He didn't have anything to drink. So there should be somewhere that people can go that is open. And I'm not just talking about the shelters that people sleep in at night that aren't even safe, especially like for women. I'm talking about somewhere people can go that they can at least have food to eat. Because he shouldn't be saying, oh, if I go to jail, I don't care. He shouldn't be saying that. And a lot of times, and I've seen somebody, I remember I went to traffic court once, and then there was a guy who was basically begging the judge for him to go to jail because he's been living on the street.
Right.
And the reason why is because jail, you're guaranteed food, drink, and shelter. On the street, it's like you don't have any of that. And you're on top of that, you're exposed to the elements. So it could be freaking, like below 10 degrees, especially, in the fucking city, in the wintertime, it gets windy. It's brick outside.
Yep.
And you legit got people out there sleeping, and that's why you see them sleeping in the trains, because they can't sleep outside. So how is it that you got billionaires, millionaires, these politicians that claim to care about the American citizens, but yet you have, hold on, let me see. I just want to check out, the amount of homeless people in the United States. Hold up.
Oh, I'm sure it's gonna be
The,
well in the
the
millions.
amount of homeless in America. Okay. So it says the Department of Housing and Urban Development counted around 582,000 Americans experiencing homelessness in 2022. So that's about 18 per 10,000 people in the US. That's still 582,000. You see what I'm saying? That's a lot of American citizens right there. So if you're a like these are things that should be addressed. You got the president that's just been throwing away billions of dollars at the Ukraine, but you got all these people here that don't have anything to eat, drink, or a place to sleep. And I don't think this is that complex of an issue. Really, to me, it's not. So there's no excuse.
No, you know what? I'm doing a little research on Jordan Neely a little bit, and like I said, I'm speaking on behalf of all the people in his position. But apparently, his sister Caroline, she did a piece. She talked to the New Yorker, and she was talking about how when he was on the street, she invited him to where her residence in upper Manhattan. But then her and her wife moved up, and he didn't want to move up with them because he didn't want to be a burden sleeping in their house. So he went back on the street, and she desperately tried to get him help. He was apparently committed into the forensic psychiatry unit at Bellevue, but apparently after a week or two, he just walked out right back on the street, and nobody ever stopped him. And apparently, outreach workers saw him urinating. He peed at them. They just called the police, and she's begged judges, doctors, anybody who can hear to get him help. And yet he was still on the street doing, God knows what. And unfortunately, so many of these people just get left um, to the wild. It's funny we talking about this. We thought, Skid Row is a big place in LA. I've heard about. When I lived there, I really got to understand what Skid Row was. If you don't know what Skid Row is, you could just look it up. But Skid Row is a part of downtown LA where I live, not too far from. But basically, it's like its own separate country over there, and it's just basically homeless people who just have their own area to themselves. I mean, multiple blocks, multiple avenues. They just dominate the whole area. They do drugs. There's syringes everywhere. The police don't go in there. Nobody goes there. It's just them. Wow. And I mean, the fact that there's a place called Skid Row, it's mind-boggling. Now, I understand that you can't pick up and put everybody in a hotel or a resident. I get that. But the fact that nobody's trying to help these people, like Skid Row, it's just gotten worse over the years, to the point where, when I was working at my overnight job at my gym, I used to encounter homeless people all the time. They would come from Skid Row and they just wander around because I lived near 7-Eleven, a bunch of other convenience stores that were open 24/7. So I used to deal with these people all the time. I'd be at work 2 in the morning. They'd come in the gym. One guy pulled out a gun. One guy came in the gym. He took a fire extinguisher. He tried to hit me with it. He fired the whole thing into the gym. He had to close it down. And wow. The police knew these people. Yet I saw them the next day. The police come, lock them up. They'd be on the street the next day. They come back again. And I'm just like, that's why for me, when I hear that Jordan, some people look at Jordan and they say, oh, he was arrested 43 times for violent crimes. He deserved to die. No, I don't think so. I think
he needed help.
He needed help. And
he wasn't himself.
And many people don't treat mental illness like that. How many people,
Twitch, because they can't see it.
Right.
Mental illnesses is something that you can't see. It's not like a sore, like an external injury, because it says he developed depression, schizophrenia, and PTSD. You know what I'm saying? In addition to him being homeless, and then just the mental effects that will have on your mind from being on the streets for years and years and years. And in fact, as of 2019, there was 92,091 homeless in 2019. So I'm assuming that that number has increased in the last 3 years. And then in California, like you just mentioned, Skid Row, as of 2019, there's 151,278 homeless people as of 2019. So that means these numbers have increased. They're not going down, they're going up. So there's an issue, especially in New York and California.
Yeah. And you know what? I've seen downtown. I've only lived in LA for 3 years, right? But I've seen how they've built new buildings, new luxury. And it's crazy when you go near Skid Row, you'll see all these high rises, these new modern apartments and business buildings. And then you walk to Skid Row because Skid Row is right next to these buildings. And then you see all these homeless people. You're like, wait, they got a new apartment that's worth 10 grand per apartment, but yet they can't do nothing about all of these homeless camps. It's crazy.
Because
But
they don't want to fix it. It's something. You ever seen the movie Divergent with what's the actress's name? Oh my god, I was literally just on the page.
I know you're talking about. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen
the
it.
movie with Shailene Woodley. Yeah, and they have like the 5 different factions, and then the people who are like homeless and poor, they're called the factionless, and then they're just like on the outskirts. So kind of like how you describe Skid Row, it's the same thing in that movie. Like they just have a section where like the deplorables of society are just there, just like wallowing in their squalor. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing in real life. It's because the people that can help them look down on them. That's why. That's exactly why. So they don't look at homeless people the way that they look at you and I.
You know, as we come back, let me mention something to you. The New Yorker did a thing, a piece about the homelessness in New York after the Jordan Neely murder, and they talked about how there's more than 200,000 uh, residents in the city, mostly homeless with severe mental illness. Um, and many of them have schizophrenia, major depressive, bipolar disorders, or significant mental behavioral health diagnosis. And many of them sleep on the subway streets, wherever they can find shelter. I've seen this city. Like I said, I've been born and raised in New York all my life, and I've the homeless situation gotten slightly. When I say slightly, I mean very slightly better. But it's still a huge thing. When I go to Port Authority, uh, I still see a lot of homeless people sleeping there. When I on the train, I still see a lot of homeless people. When I go on the street, I see a lot of homeless people. And you know what? I'm not advocating for people to go up and have conversations with them and give them your hard-earned money. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people, like I said, especially the higher ups, they don't care about these people. So many of these elected officials, every year they get these hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in bonus money for their job and all this stuff. But none of this money is going to resources to help these people. You know, like I said, many people say Jordan deserved to die because he was violent. And I say, you know what? People like him, they need help. This could have all been prevented if he was able to get the treatment and help that he needed. And like you said, so many of these homeless people, they commit these crimes, these petty crimes, or just do things to get themselves in jail because they rather be in jail where, they're going to have a hot meal, a bed to sleep on, opposed to, sleeping on a train. And one of the biggest issues with this situation, unfortunately, now a lot of people, you know, don't understand how dangerous it is on the subway. Like I said, I've seen so many things happen in front of my eyes. It could have happened to me at that very moment. Luckily, nothing ever happened to me, but I've seen the effects of this. And I just want to talk about this situation too, because I see a lot of people um, chiming in. And this is the part I wanted to actually get your opinion on too, because so many of his friends and family are coming out speaking on behalf of Jordan, rightfully so. I'm not mad at them for doing that. But so is other people who saw the situation unfolded. Now, when this situation happened, they was in the tunnel going to Broadway Lafayette, which is lower Manhattan, and there was a lot of people watching. There was people helping him subdue, helping the Marine. What's his name? Um,
Daniel Penny.
Daniel. Many people helped Daniel subdue him. Many people had their phones out. This is a great phenomenon in New York where, like I said, I don't, unless it's a situation I feel I need to intervene. Most New Yorkers don't pay attention or they don't get involved. But this situation, many people, when the press came to the situation and started interviewing, many people was talking about family and friends. Apparently, had a couple friends in the area who saw this happen, and a lot of these people were saying, "Yeah, he didn't deserve to die," and I was there. I recorded, but I didn't help. I didn't know what to do, and I look at. I get it. People freeze up in tense situations. I'm not saying they don't, but what mind boggles me is all these people who are out here trying to put Daniel in jail are the same ones that didn't help. They didn't help. Hey man, get up off of him. Yeah, yo, let wait for the police. Nobody intervened. People just pull out their cell phones, waited till the camera started rolling. Oh, he was aggressive. He didn't need to do that. It's like me watching you get beat up, right? Hypothetically. But let's say I'm right there and someone starts beating up, and I pull out my phone and I start recording. And then when the police and the press get there, then I start talking about, oh man, I should have helped him. He didn't deserve that. But I was standing right there. And for 15 minutes, this guy had Jordan in the headlock. And a lot of people don't understand how dangerous me and you do, because we're big into combat sports and stuff. But many people don't know how dangerous a choke is. A lot of people think you can last in a choke for 2-3 minutes. You can't. It takes, if someone puts their arm around your neck and squeeze 10 seconds or less, you're going to be out cold. So for 15 minutes, he had him subdued. Um, do you think this was just because right now apparently Daniel turned himself in after many people were lobbying for his arrest? He's finally got arrested and he's being charged with second-degree
They released him
murder.
on bond though.
Yeah, he's released on bond, but he's looking at second-degree murder. Do you really think that he's going to get sentenced, or do you think he's going to just get probation?
I'd like for him to get sentenced and I'd like for him to get charged. I just think for me personally, I'm just looking at it like black people need legislation. And for people who listen to your podcast and the episodes that I've been on, and those who are familiar with what I tend to say on my YouTube channel, I'm really just big on legislation for black people because this will happen again in a few months if these sorts of things aren't in place. So yeah, we're talking about it, right? But what steps are being taken so it doesn't happen again? That's just my main thing, because he can go to jail, but what's protecting black people and black homeless in these situations? I think if it happened to someone else, trust me, the response would be what it is now, but a lot more, and people would be erring on the side of legislative change versus justice, in my opinion. So yeah, I'd like for him to be charged. I'd like for him to see jail time and to get, the proper consequences and punishment, for what he did, which is murder. But I'm just big on political change or legislative change and action, that needs to be taken.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think a lot of some of the, I will say, I don't think, you know, Daniel, like I said, I think he was just released from the Marines, not right before this incident happened, not too long. So I don't know if it was PTSD involved where he saw the violent, aggressive yelling and just jumped into action. I don't know. I do think there's some people who, because Jordan was black and he was white, are looking at it like, and he was homeless. It's not. It's not. We have much more important things to do. A lot of people in government power and police don't look at homeless people like that. I mentioned a situation where when I was at work, the guy who was trying to hit me with the fire extinguisher, and he shot the whole place up with the foam and all that stuff. So I remember one of the police officers, you didn't try to beat him up or anything. I was like, no, I didn't put my hands on him. And so many people was like, yo, you could have beat him up. And I was like, I could have, but for what? It was clear something was wrong with him. He had some type of mental illness. This wasn't a guy who looked like he just took a bunch of drugs and just went on a rant. He looked like something was wrong with him because he was mumbling to himself. He was talking about something that happened in his life 10 years ago. He was mumbling about. So something was wrong with this man. And I do think that many people, I think for right now, I want to see. I don't think a lot of people care about Jordan. I think they're just trying to virtue signaling because at the same time, like I said, how many homeless people get beat up on the train all the time and people don't stand up for them? But yet, I'm not saying Jordan Neely deserved to die. I do think Daniel is going to serve some consequences, but something tells me, like I said, the homeless guy who got beat up on the subway, he got with the by the businessman, he got put in jail. Not the businessman, he went home. So I feel like Jordan, who was a black homeless man with mental illness, people, the prosecutors and stuff are going to say, you know what, I, he didn't know. He felt like his life was threatened, and the DA, if I'm not mistaken, um, uh, not the DA, but the prosecutor said that she said this in the interview. She said, to anybody saying I've been on a train and I've been afraid before, and I can't tell you what I would have done in that situation. She says, I'm gonna tell you and ask you how you can help. Please don't attack, don't choke, don't kill, don't take anybody's life. Um, and I do agree that Daniel was maybe a little way more aggressive than he needs to be. Uh, but here's the thing. Like I said, I've been on that train. I've seen stuff happen. You don't know. I think for a lot of these people, the prosecutors and all that, I don't know if they take the train. I highly doubt it. But many people in these situations who are calling for Daniel's head. Now, I'm not saying he don't deserve consequences. I'm not saying that. But many of these people fail to realize how dangerous New York subway stations are. Like just the other day, Nally was telling me she was coming home from work that someone got pushed in the subway in front of the 6 train. Um,
Wow.
I mean, things. The subways is awful. During the pandemic, it went ruthless. Now it's even worse. And I know a lot of family members who drive now. Everybody got a car, even if they can't afford it, because they don't want to take the train. Because every day something's happening. This is like the 4th time this year. She's told me about somebody getting pushed in front of the train. And then yesterday, apparently, she was waiting for the train, and some homeless dude sucker punched a cop in the face. It's
You're
ruthless out
right.
here.
You're right. I mean, because even me personally, I don't, I don't relish in making any sort of visits to the city whatsoever. And when I do, like the last time I was there for like leisure, my head was on a swivel the entire time. Like I was out on a date, and me and her, we went to different places. So we had to walk, catch a couple of trains and do the same thing and stuff like that. And I was on alert the whole entire time. So yeah, I was relaxed with being with her, but at the same time, I'm like, yo, I'm in a city, I'm in an area where things can happen on the fly. So if we're sitting on a bench, waiting for the train to come up and ain't nobody around, and I see this person walking up, my assumption is he could potentially, pose a threat to me and my girl. So I'm always ready. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm waiting for it. Whatever it is, I'm ready because I know, things like that where you could just be standing waiting for the train and then somebody will just go and push you up on the tracks and stuff like that. And that's a pretty steep fall. It's not like you get pushed on the tracks and you're falling like right to the ground. No, you're dropping like a couple of feet into the ground on some freaking metal on top of that. So you got to be careful. So I 100% agree with you when you're saying that, the city, particularly like, the subway is a dangerous place. That's a fact.
Yeah, and like I said, this is in no way advocating for people to go out act like Batman and start attacking people. I'm not saying that Jordan did not deserve to die. Our systems failed him and many other homeless people that has been killed. Um, you know, you know, and even people who killed at the hands of homeless people. This is a crisis that really needs to be addressed. And I think so many people are quick to say this is a. I'm not. I get why some people are saying this is racially motivated, right? Um, maybe it was. It could be, right? But this is also a problem where, like I said, you're in the middle, you're in the tunnel. These train cars and the new ones are on certain lines, the real busy lines, but the new cars aren't out yet. So a lot of these train cars are locked. you can't get out until you get to the station and open the door. So you're in the train car minding your business, and some dude ripping his clothes off, yelling, "I don't care if I die, I'll go to jail," and all this stuff, erratic, and he's homeless. You don't know this man. You don't know what to do. And I think people are quick to say, "Oh, he didn't need to do that." But again,
well, here's the thing, and I partially agree with you to an extent. I talked to Adrian about this, the day that it happened, or I think maybe the day after, and I was saying that you're going to try to take steps to prevent a situation from getting violent, and especially if you're somebody in the city, that things can get crazy. I mean, shit, you don't even have to live in the city to know how dangerous it is, because every time you go on World Star, you just see, these sorts of things happen all the time on the trip. People get knocked out, people fighting, people yelling, doing this, doing that, right? Because even me, it's like if I was on the subway and let's say he was there and that was when he decided, to do that, and let's say my girl is there or something like that, of course, I'm going to be concerned for her safety, but I'm going to be on alert just in case things go left. But would I put him on a chokehold for that long? No. If you are somebody that's trained in combat, you should know those sorts of things. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like the intention most likely was to kill him because, like you said earlier, after, about 15-20 seconds, you're going to start to really lose consciousness depending on how tight, the chokehold grip is. So I can't say he didn't mean to do it, when if you're trained, then after a certain amount of time, you're going to have to let loose of your grip because this person can suffocate and or die.
Right. No, and you're right. And that's why I say he deserves some type of repercussions for his actions, because 15 minutes is a long time. But then again, like I said, it took the police a long time to show up. So like I said, you stuck on the train, they're not opening the doors, because even when they pulled up to the train, the station, they didn't open the doors for a little bit. So you let this man go. You don't know if he's going to get up and start attacking you, and I'm not saying he deserved to be in that chokehold for
Well,
15
he
minutes
wouldn't, because it wasn't just Daniel. It was Daniel and then two other guys
right.
that were helping, to restrain him. But that's all they were supposed to do. Restraining somebody and choking them out is two completely different things. When I put you in a chokehold, that's basically to choke you out. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think he had to do that. I mean, you're more familiar with mixed martial arts, than I am, but I'm pretty sure I think there were other holds he could have used to kind of keep Jordan at bay. Not that one.
You know what? You made a good point. Let me touch on this, because Chael Sonnen, who's widely respected MMA community, he did this actually happened recently, because a lot of people, John Jones went viral a couple years ago. A lot of fans do this. I mean, it correlates to this, but fans will. This happened not too long ago with a UFC lightweight, where he was doing a media appearance, Ilya Taporia, and one of his fans was egging him to choke him. He just wanted to see what it felt like to be choked to death. Not choked to death, but to be choked. And John Jones, a lot of fighters have done videos where people record, because these fans will just, hey man, I need to see what it feels like. Put me in a chokehold, I guess, because they want video for their friends and stuff. And then they do it, and luckily a lot of these fighters know, all right, I'm gonna do it for a couple seconds. They know techniques to wake them up, to bring them to consciousness, so they don't do it to try to kill them. But it goes to the point where, like I say, he just came out the Marines, so I'm gonna wait for a little bit, because I might agree with you on the fact that he did it intentionally. But when I watched the video, first of all, it was hard to watch. I wouldn't watch it again. But what I did see was, after a while, he did get up and they try to, wake him up. And it's not like they ran and fled the scene. They actually stayed for the police. And, so maybe it was intentional. He thought because, he was a Marine, he could get away with it. I don't know what his full intentions were. But based on what I saw, it looked like people were just trying to restrain him because he was a homeless man acting crazy. The police took forever. And then,
yeah, but if I'm like, let's say one of the other guys that's trying to, keep his arms or something like that, I'm gonna just say, hey, can he still breathe? Because I know
right.
a chokehold. I train boxing, but I still have common sense to know, all right, let's make sure he can still breathe so he doesn't die. Because to me, when I saw the video, and I only watched it, once or twice, it reminded me of George Floyd, on some Eric Garner type shit. Like, you choke somebody up until a certain point, they're going to die if you don't let go. So if the goal is this can get potentially dangerous for me, the other, passengers on the train, we're going to restrain him. But if I'm the guy that's standing up, I'm not the one that's choking him. I'm gonna say, bro, can he still breathe? All right, let go. Like, you can still hold his arms or something like that, but don't hold him on his neck anymore. Let's make sure he can breathe so he can calm down. That's, what I'm saying? You got to regulate. If you're going to regulate the situation, regulate it. Because as we know with combat sports and certain techniques, you don't play around with that stuff.
No.
So like let's say these fans that are asking John Jones, oh, choke me. I want to know what it's like. Dude, it's not a joke. Like, get one of your friends to do it. I'm not going to do it. You can't play. You don't play combat sports. You don't hear them saying, oh, let's play UFC. Let's play MMA. No, they're fighting. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's a matter of life or death. When you use these sorts of techniques a certain way, it can be, very harmful and or fatal. So in that situation, these guys, if you're going to assume that responsibility to restrain him, then be responsible about it. Don't assume responsibility and be irresponsible, because that's what I mean.
Right.
And that's why I can't help but feel like there was some sort of malicious intent, because if you're trained, I don't know if they train people in Marines to in certain, martial arts or combat where you could chokehold somebody. But let's say if he was trained, then he knew better. He should have known better, which he did. And he chose not to, because this was a black guy acting out. And he just took it upon himself to choke him out and kill him. That's what I'm saying. So all three of you, because even me, the two guys that were standing there, they were involved. I don't know if these guys are just as, like if their names were thrown into the pot, but you kept him from moving his arms, because when Jordan Neely was trying to move his arms, I'm pretty sure he was trying to get to his neck to relieve himself of the chokehold. And these guys were keeping his hands restrained. To me, these guys are accomplices to murder, in my opinion. So if you're gonna get Daniel Penny and hold him accountable, hold those two guys accountable too, because they kept Jordan from protecting himself. That's what I'm saying, because he couldn't breathe, and I'm pretty sure he couldn't even say and articulate that he couldn't breathe because he couldn't talk. So there's no really room for me to kind of make an excuse for this guy. And I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying in general, if you're gonna be that guy, then be responsible about the shit. It's like when they say with great power comes great responsibility. So it's like if you're trained, to box, if you're trained in Muay Thai, karate, kung fu, and capoeira, and all these different martial arts styles, then with that comes a responsibility to use it responsibly. Which this guy, if he's trained, he didn't do that.
No, you're 100% right, man. And you know what? That's another big point I was going to make. That's why I tied John Jones and fighters and fans who ask to be choked down, put in these types of holes, because a lot of, before I got into UFC and martial arts, I didn't know how dangerous a lot of these holes were. I remember my first time actually getting choked out. I was play fighting with someone way younger than me, and this person was half my size. And they put me in a chokehold. I was laughing and giggling, and all of a sudden I passed out, and I woke up and and then I learned martial arts, and I started to understand, like, it really don't take that much effort to choke somebody out. And a lot of people don't realize that. That's why people ask fighters and ask their favorite, professional fighters to put them in these dangerous situations, because they don't know.
That's like honestly, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all day. That's like you walk up to Deontay Wilder. I just want to know what it feels like. You punch me in the face, like, yo, what? Who says that?
You know what, bro? It happens all the, like, I remember Francis Ngannou. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's like known as he's like known as the hardest puncher in recorded history. And fans have asked him, "Yo, punch me in the body, punch me in the face." I don't know why people do it, but I think it's because people don't really understand the full. People, like, for instance, when we talked about the, I don't want to get too much off it, but when we was talking about Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, many people was laughing at Ryan Garcia. Oh, he gave up. He couldn't take that shot. But people don't realize a lever shot hurts. You punch.
They don't do it, so they don't know. They don't know. These people are not trained in any sort of hand-to-hand combat, so they just think that things are a joke. and it's not. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why, like, I wouldn't spar somebody with, no mouthpieces or headgear, because I know it wouldn't take all that much force to knock somebody's tooth out a certain way. It wouldn't take that much force to bust somebody's lip. It wouldn't take that much force, to knock somebody out if I punch them in the face or I
Yeah, you
punch them in the right area. So the same could be said for a chokehold. It's not going to take all that much to suffocate somebody to death with a certain amount of force and a certain amount of time. And Daniel Penny, I'm just saying, I feel like he knew exactly what he was doing. Because if I'm going to be that guy on the train, if I really feel like, all right, this guy is getting way out of hand, I have to, restrain him, because if we don't do anything, he's going to start, like being like a social terrorist and all of that. Fine, but I have to do it in a way that I don't kill somebody. That's the
right,
thing, because my goal is not to kill him. My goal is to get him to calm down. That's the
right,
goal. And then, when police comes, maybe this time, they can get him the help that he needs. You see what I'm
right.
saying? Like, because the goal is to help him. That's the thing. It's like, if I'm doing that and he's saying, yo, I don't have anything to eat, I don't have anything to drink, I don't have anywhere to sleep, and he's saying all of this shit, and he's saying he wants to go to jail and he's not afraid of dying. If I'm the one in that train to step up, that means my goal is to help this man. So, and that's the thing. It's like, if I'm doing that, I be telling them. It's like, if I'm on the floor and I'm grabbing, I'm like, yo, I'm trying to help you. I'm literally, I would tell them, yo, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. That's the goal. You don't need to do this. This is why I'm doing this. Not, I'm just choking him out, and then I'm not even mindful of what I'm doing, to the point where he died. Come on, man. Like I said, Daniel Penny was the wrong guy to do that shit. He
No,
was
you're
the
right.
wrong guy.
No, you 100% right. And the only reason why I'm not, like I said, I do think he deserves some consequences, but the only reason I'm not going too full on him, because, like I said, he just came back from the Marines. I don't know if he has PTSD, mental illness. I don't know. We don't know. We only know that he was a guy who served for our country, and he killed a homeless black man, a beloved black man, I should say. But you know what? Until more details come out, I'm for now. I'm saying that I think the people behind the scenes rooted for him. They didn't care that Jordan Neely died, because obviously the cops didn't care. They didn't arrest him. They didn't even bother to question him. They just let him go, right? And that goes to show that how much homeless people are treated in our society. The fact that they just let him go.
And he's
I'm not.
black.
No, I'm saying
He's
and he's black.
homeless.
Yeah,
And on top of that, he's black to boot in this situation.
right.
Okay. So, and they were like, well, shit, you did the job for us, because we would have did the same thing if we showed up. So they were like,
Exactly.
oh, well, we'll see you later if we have some more questions. And because of the outrage is when they brought him back. But let's say if nobody said anything, they wouldn't have done anything.
No, right. And you know what? I'm glad people are standing up. I just hope people are standing up for the right reasons. Like when the camera stopped rolling, I hope people still advocate, because this is a major thing I've always talked about, from Black Lives Matter to all that stuff. It's like people will advocate when the cameras are rolling, but when when the press go home, the media people stop covering, people just tend to forget. And I think with this situation, when this case is resolved, people may just go right back to doing what they're doing, minding their business until the next thing happens. But this is a
Well,
real
because
conversation.
but I'll say this, just I agree with you, but I'm saying it's just that people's lives are not going to stop just because this happened, and it's not the average citizen's responsibility to do something about this. These are the elected officials. It's their responsibility. That it's really on them. The people are the ones who initiate the conversation, but we are not the ones that create, policy. You see what I'm saying? So I understand, like, yeah, you want people to keep that same energy, but at the same time, people got to go to work. People got their families. People have their whole lives, that they have to tend to.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's really the accountability and the onus falls on the politicians. That's who it falls on.
Oh no, and I don't disagree with you. The only reason why I said that is because what the problem is, these politicians don't take the subway. They don't ride the public
No,
transportation here. So they have their job really is when it makes the news, they come out and they try to do whatever they have to, and then they go right back to their private cars, their luxury cars, and what they do. And I think that's why people, like I said, I should be out there, advocating too. I'm not saying that I'm a social justice warrior, but what I am saying is this conversation needs to continue happening. Like, let's not let this die down completely. I know people got, We got lives, we got things we're trying to do. I'm not telling people to give up with, to stop, providing for yourself and your family for other people. I'm not saying that. But these politicians, like I said, they live in these multi-million-dollar homes. They have private drivers. They get, all these, they get treatment that we don't go through. I had to ride the train. Natalie has to ride the train. Other people have to ride the train. So we're going to be the ones that continually face these issues. This is a lost situation for everybody. I'm sure Daniel didn't intend that day to murder somebody. I'm sure Jordan didn't intend to cause any harm and be murdered. I don't think anybody intended this to happen. But this is a situation where this could have been prevented years ago. In 2021, when he was admitted to the psychiatry unit at the hospital, people need to realize when these people are suffering mental illness, let's not put them back on the street, because some people don't understand that someone is going through something. Like I said, I've worked with these people, so I can sometimes see the signs. That's why I don't take advantage of the situation. But a lot of people don't know. A lot of people didn't know he was suffering mental illness. Some people just thought he was a homeless, crazy guy, right? But
yeah,
and that's the unfortunate thing, because there's going to be other people who see homeless people, beat them up. I was just reading about a homeless guy before Jordan Neely. I didn't even know about it because it didn't make the news until Jordan thing made the news. But there was a homeless guy who was sleeping on a train. Some dude just came out, busted him in the head with the hammer and killed him. He was a 27-year-old African man. I don't know what the guy was, but yeah, this dude was just sleeping on a train, got his head busted in because he was sleeping. So yeah,
and he was black. You said,
yeah, he was a black man. Yeah.
see, that's what I'm saying. To me, that's a hate crime, bro. But it really, really, it's like people got to squeeze politicians and stuff like that, because they're the ones that really can at least put laws in place that'll make it illegal. So that way, the white boy, freaking Daniel Penny, he'll think twice and say, oh shit, if this dude dies, there is no charges because I'm already committing a crime. Not only is this murder, but it's a hate crime, and they're really gonna put me away. If I do this. It's the same thing with cops. If you have laws in place that say if you do this to a black person, all bets are off. It's set in stone. You're done. They're not going to do it. So, it's something that what's his name said, where it's like, oh, you got to have a foreign country that's looking out for you. Well, that's not happening. All right. So when you have policy and legislation in place that's going to protect you at least, so that's just a deterrent. Right now, there's no deterrence.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? If for the right price, Daniel Penny can get off this if he's got good enough lawyers, if he's got enough money. You see what I'm saying? So you need these things in place. So it's like, not only justice for Jordan Neely, but justice and change for Jordan Neely, for black people and homeless.
Yep. I already can. Like I said, I don't know how this case is going to play out, but I can already see what Daniel's defense attorney is going to lay out. Jordan had multiple prior arrests for violent acts. He was homeless,
and he's black.
And that was a situation where it was life or death for him. So I could already see probation, maybe a year. I don't think he's going to get the full.
And he used to be a Marine. So
oh yeah. So I mean, I'm not, like I said, how many cops are still getting away with killing black people? I mean, it's crazy that it's just one of these things. Like you said, there's no deterrent. People are saying that, he was playing Batman and vigilante, but how many cops are doing the same thing and getting away scot-free? Now you're talking about a guy who just came from serving the country, and we're talking about a homeless black man. Like I said, homeless people get treated like dirt all the time, but yet, when push comes to shove, when they need help, they get looked down on. So, I hope that our country, first of all, New York especially, because right now the homeless situation is crazy here. This needs to really be addressed. This is an unfortunate situation for Jordan, his family, because like I said, his sister was advocating for help for many years for him, to no avail. So it really goes to show that our system is just not suitable right now to help people struggling with mental health. This is really a conversation.
They have the means, they just don't do anything. If you don't mind, I just want to read Daniel Penny's statement, because I kind of glossed over it the other day.
Yeah.
They released a statement last week, and this is the law firm of Reiser and Kenneth represents Daniel Penny, a 24-year-old college student and Marine veteran. See how they put that in there? Earlier this week, Daniel Penny was involved in a tragic incident on the New York City subway, which ended in the death of Jordan Neely. We would first like to express, on behalf of Daniel Penny, our condolences to those close to Mr. Neely. That's some BS. Mr. Neely had a See, notice how they put this shit in the goddamn statement. Like, it says Mr. Neely had a documented history of violent and erratic behavior, the apparent result of ongoing and untreated mental illness. Like, why are they even putting that in there? What, you know what I'm saying? Like, why did they feel the need to say how bad or how violent and erratic Jordan Neely was? You see what I'm saying? They're just deflecting from the fact that he murdered this man. And it says, when Mr. Neely began aggressively threatening Daniel Penny and the other passengers, Daniel, with the help of others, acted to protect themselves until help arrived. See, this lawyer, whatever it is, this statement doesn't read well, in my opinion. Like, I think I could have done a better job than that, creating a freaking statement or a press release, for the media to get. And it says Daniel never intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his untimely death. See, that is bullshit. And I debunked that earlier. So there's no way you could have, you didn't see that coming. If you put this man in a chokehold, if I choke you and I don't let you go, how can I say I didn't see you dying if I chose not to let you go?
No, you're right.
BS. It says, for too long, those suffering from mental illness have been treated with indifference. Well, you treated him with a chokehold. You were better off just ignoring the man. That's the case. And it says, we hope that out of this awful tragedy will come a new commitment by our elected officials to address the mental health crisis on our streets and subways. Well, first of all, the homeless issue that's on the streets and subways. So that's the only thing that they said that was right, which is the last sentence. Will come a new commitment by our elected officials to address the mental health crisis on our streets and subways. That was fine. Everything else was complete BS. Everything else was complete BS.
You know what, man? Like, you know what? This is it's hard. It's, in one hand, it's like, I do agree with you 100%. But then, like I said, I remember in high school, I seen this homeless man. He snatched somebody's food out and then slashed this dude in the face. So, it's one of those things where you damn it, people always complain.
It's not damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because, again, like I said earlier, if you're going to be that guy, just don't kill anyone.
No, you're right.
If Jordan Neely was coming up on this man with a knife or some shit, or something like that, try to stab somebody, he pulled out a gun, maybe that's a different story, because he was under the threat of real danger. Jordan Neely was not armed. So if I'm trained in hand-to-hand combat where not only I could restrain you, but I could put you down with my fists, then there's really no reason to kill you, because I know how to deal with you other ways. Killing you should be the very last option, especially if you're dealing with a guy who is not armed. He was yelling. The only thing he had was his black jacket that he threw down on the ground. There's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for that shit.
No, you're right. You know what? It makes this is something I wanted to mention too, because this happened recently. Nate Diaz, beloved in the MMA community, he recently just had an incident with a guy. He wasn't homeless or anything. He was a Logan Paul impersonator, but they was in the street, I think in New Orleans. This dude approached Nate Diaz and his crew. Apparently, they was trying to do like a publicity stunt. I don't know, but this dude was aggressively approaching Nate Diaz. Now, he was unarmed. He didn't punch him, but the way he was approaching, he was like, yo, I don't know who you are, back up. And then so he put him in a chokehold, a rear naked choke, and then dropped him to the sidewalk. He hit his head, and now he's filing a lawsuit against Nate Diaz. I would say, yeah, Nate Diaz is trained in jiu-jitsu. This is his specialty. So he knew not to hold that hold long, and then he just dropped him. He let him go. He walked away, right? So it's one of those things, in this situation, it's, like the prosecutor was saying, like, he could have just let him be. But like I said, you can mind your business in New York all the time. You get pushed in the subway, someone, like I said, I've seen people get their face slashed. They're on their phone, someone runs up, slash them in their face.
That's why I'm not saying people are at fault for that, but that's just why I'm always on alert, because I've heard one too many of these stories for me to be, all out in the city and then thinking that, everything is all hunky dory. Like, I'm saying, like I'm in the suburbs. No, I'm not. I have a very good understanding of where I'm at, and I know that things could happen at any time in the city, so I'm always on alert. But in this case scenario, the way that the situation has been described, Daniel Penny was not in any real danger because Jordan Neely did not have a weapon on him. It's not like they said, when they were going through his dead body, they found a weapon. They didn't say they found a knife. They didn't find a gun. He didn't have anything. Where would he get money to find a knife anyway? You know what I'm saying? So he was literally having a mental health episode. Like that's what was happening. No real danger. I mean, I understand women feeling a little bit threatened by him, but other men, no. And I don't even know how tall Jordan Neely was, but and as far as I can see, he was not the biggest dude ever. We're not talking about, you know what I mean? We're not talking about somebody who's Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua's height and size. All right? Jordan Neely was a small dude. Not even my height. All right? I'm pretty sure he was not even 6 feet tall. This dude is probably like 5'8", 5'9" at most. All right? Look at his videos. Okay? He was an adult in those Michael Jackson videos. So therefore, he probably maxed out in height. I would say he's probably average height at best. So therefore, he did not pose any real physical threat to Daniel Penny, nor those two other guys. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. There was another way. And not any of those guys were any real leaders. Because believe me, if I was on that train and I saw that, I would have walked up to Daniel Penny. I said, yo, can he breathe? Can he breathe? All right, let him go. I'm not going to be sitting there on my goddamn phone. I'm not going to be sitting there. Like situations like that, it's like, you know what Tom Holland said in Civil War? He said, like, when bad things happen, it's your fault because you didn't do anything about it, and you could have. So there's no way I'm going to see somebody like that or see something like that happening, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, this guy's about to die if I don't do something. If I don't do something, he's going to die. Because I sat there and I watched him die, and knowing that I could have intervened, that makes me just as culpable. Because in this day and age now, people have to understand, yes, it is important to record these things happening, but at the same time, you don't need number one phone to record what's going on.
Right.
You're on a train full of adults. You don't have to get involved. You could just say, make sure he can breathe. That is it. Once you tell him that, which maybe, like I said, I don't know, that will change things. Make sure he can breathe. Because that man, Jordan Neely, did not say, all right, everybody, I want your purses and your wallets and your phones, all of that. Your jewelry, everything. He did not say that. He said, I need food, I need water, and I don't have any place to eat, and I'm tired of this. That is not a criminal. So, that's it.
No, you're right. And you know what? And that's why I mentioned the story about the guy Randy because when a lot of the guests the people that would help me that day, right? They were volunteers. They didn't know Randy. I knew him. So they would just go out there, serve food, and then he have his episode. They freaking out. I don't know what he's about to do. He's threatening to stab people. They running back to like, yo, can you help? I'm like, okay, I know it's Randy. Let me call the police. They'll come get him. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They just think he about to explode. I don't know what this guy going to do. Now that's an extreme example, but for the average person, I think it's easier for us because like we're trained in combat. For a lot of people, they aren't. They have no idea.
Right.
So now he was a Marine. Like I said, I don't know if he had PTSD. He had like this whole.
No, he didn't. He's racist. All right, he's racist. And you could just tell by the statement that they put out there that that just showed no remorse whatsoever. And anything that they tried to allude to some sort of remorse or empathy, sympathy, whatever you want to call it, they did a horrible job doing that. All right, that's what it was. Let's not put it on the fact that he's a Marine. This is just another, racist white kid that literally, has an issue with black people, and he just wanted an excuse. And he took it. And other people either stood there or they helped him do it. Because one of them guys that was restraining Jordan Neely was black.
Yeah, exactly.
And he helped him do it. So he is just as guilty as in my opinion, as Daniel Penny, because you eliminated his means to defend himself.
No, that was the yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. That was the part that I knew when he was starting to restrain his arms, it was a rat. He was going to, because I thought about what that, like, imagine being chained and thrown in the ocean. I mean, you have no means to defend. You're done. It's over. So Jordan you're stuck. And I felt bad because I'm like, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that when you're doing that, you're actually taking away their means to, to stop. Hey, I can't breathe. And a lot of people don't know that. Some people think that these holes, these putting people in chokeholds is fun. I'm just restraining them. And that's another thing I was going to mention too, because he might be trained. I know in the Marines and stuff, they do train people armed combat. I'm not exactly sure. I think they do like Krav Maga or something, a different type of martial art. But a lot of them aren't trained in jujitsu and all these holds. So some people think I'm gonna put this guy. I'll mention this real quick. There was a case that happened like 10 years ago where there was this lady, I think she was either a police chief or she was a high-ranking government official. She went out to dinner with her husband. Her husband got in a fight with this dude. They was leaving a restaurant and back and forth happened. Dude pushed the husband. They started fighting. The husband put the dude in a chokehold. In his mind, because there was video and audio footage, he thought he was just subduing him. He didn't realize, though, he was compressing this dude's neck to the point where he snapped his neck. So he killed him and he ended up going to jail for a couple of years. I think 10 years. So I do think there's a part that I do feel bad because, like I said, I don't think they both intended, we're going to kill somebody there. I don't think they took the subway hoping that, but I think the lack of knowledge made them.
Who didn't mean to kill somebody? The two guys?
Yeah, I don't think the guy that helped Daniel put
they don't know what they're doing. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like don't involve yourself in a situation like that if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the means to think clearly. Like, all right, I'm doing this to try to help this guy, but I want to make sure that he's not going to die in this process. So let me tell this guy right now, make sure you loosen that grip, because if you don't, he's going to die. That's what I'm saying. Most people, they're not. It's like this guy's from the Marines, but yeah, he don't even know what he's doing either. So he might as well be, as far as the way that he handled that situation, he might as well be a regular civilian, in my opinion. No, I take the fact that he's a former Marine with a grain of salt, based on, again, like how it turned out. He might as well have been a regular guy. So they need to take that former Marine shit out of there, because he handled it horribly in a situation. Because you would think somebody that's been in the armed forces would be able to handle a situation like that a lot better than a regular person, because according to, like armed forces and shit, they train to deal with dangerous, stressful situations. And then this dude just did it. It's like he dealt with this guy with extreme prejudice. See what I'm saying? Like, yo, if you're gonna be a hero, be the goddamn hero. Don't be the villain.
No,
that is not, like I said, that is not what I would have done if I was on that train and I decided to step up and be that guy. Believe me, I would have told Daniel Penny, I said, bro, move your arm right now. And if not, I'm gonna freaking loosen, the grip myself. If he don't do it, then me and him are gonna have a problem. If I decide to be that guy, you see what I'm saying? So if you're gonna be the hero in a situation like that, you gotta handle it the right way. You can't be playing around. Like, it's not a joke. It's like somebody, like, because to me, he died. Ain't no coming back from that shit. Ain't no coming back from that. It's like, once he's dead, he's dead. And Daniel Penny killed him. And he doesn't care. He does not care. All I'm pretty sure he cares about is how he can get out scot-free. What kind of slap on the wrist he's going to get so he can move on with his life.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, that statement, nah, bro.
No, you're right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I would have done a better job, than that if I was his lawyer. Believe that.
Yeah, and the guy that helped restrain the black man, I feel bad because, like I said, I don't think he intended to restrain him to the point where they was going to kill him. But like you said, a lack of knowledge, you do have to suffer consequences.
Common sense. It really is common sense. Like, if I put your head underwater, okay, it's like if there's a bucket, I put your head in there. If I don't take your head out, you're going to die. That's common sense, right?
Right.
If you go to a swimming pool and you swim underwater, if you don't come out out of underneath that water after a certain amount of time, you will die. You will drown. It is common sense. It's not rocket science here. And this dude, again, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's like there's no way around murder. It's not an accident. It's not an incident. It's not a tragedy. It's homicide. That's what it is. So people playing patty cake with this dude and all that shit, trying to make excuses for him or trying to make it about, Jordan Neely's freaking, violent and erratic behavior. Well, the guy was been on the goddamn street for 5 freaking years. This dude's mom was found in a freaking suitcase in 2007 on the side of the Henry Hudson Parkway. Considering all that this guy's been through, then on top of that, he's been out on the streets with no food, no water, no place to sleep. It's like, yo, come on, man. Come on. This is not a sane human being we're talking about here through no fault of his own.
Right.
So to try to mention that as if he was choosing to be violent and erratic and in his own right mind, that to me, that's blasphemous because he wasn't in his right mind and he hasn't been in his right mind for years. If you stop eating for freaking 7 goddamn days or some shit like that, are you going to be in your right mind 7 days later?
Nope.
If you were exposed to the cold elements, are you going to be, in your right mind in freaking 10-degree weather out in the city in the winds?
Nope.
That's what I'm saying. No water? Even me personally, it's like if I go a day without drinking water, I feel like I'm not in my right mind the next day. I'm having headaches. I feel like I just don't feel the same. Needless to say about this guy who probably never had a good meal, like a safe place to stay where he could at least say, all right, I'm not on the streets anymore. And then he could think about something else. Come on. That's what I'm saying. Like Daniel Penny is a freaking murderer. And, I'm sorry, not sorry. The guys who restrained Jordan Neely's hands and prevented him from protecting himself, these guys are accomplices to goddamn murder, and they should be held accountable too. People, everybody listening to this, so if you listening to this, tell a friend to tell a friend. You only need one phone in these scenarios, maybe 2 max. You get one angle here and one angle there so the authorities can see both angles. Outside of that, if you see somebody on the floor about to get killed, do something. It's not like these were cops and shit like that. Like, how, like, let's say if the cops are arresting somebody, if you go and you try to intervene, the cop will either shoot you or arrest you. I can understand that. Like people were watching George Floyd getting, choked out with a knee on his freaking neck and nobody did anything because not everybody wants to go to jail and or get shot. That I can understand because you're dealing with men who have all the power in that situation and they got guns. Right. But these guys were regular civilians. Y'all could have intervened. You're not gonna get shot. Just tell him, yo, like let go of his fucking neck, man. That's what I would have said. I would have been like, yo, my man, let go of his fucking neck. He can't breathe. Clearly, he can't breathe. Because I would walk, I would say, yo, can you talk? Let go of his fucking neck right now. Let go of his fucking neck right now. Right now. And then if you don't, I'm going to move your arm for you. I'm going to move his arm for you. These guys are chill. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. It's the little things that make the biggest difference. It's the little things. Literally, watch Civil War. He says, yo, if you see bad things happening and you don't do anything, you're just as responsible. You're just as responsible. That's like in Spider-Man 2, when Tobey Maguire, he was when he lost his powers and stuff, and then he was all happy and stuff, living his life with the Raindrop song in the background. And then at the very end of that sequence, he saw a kid getting robbed in an alley and like he was getting mugged. And then he saw it. He didn't do anything. He turned his back and he kept walking. He walked away. He's just as responsible at that point. I would not want to be there. Because honestly, if I was in that subway train, part of me would feel like I had something to do with it. If I felt like my intervention could have saved him and eventually got the help that he needed the next day or some shit like that, or in a better situation, at least off the streets, something, I would literally feel responsible. If I was on that train and all of that was happening in front of me and I just sat there on the side with my AirPods and I didn't do anything, and then I went home and then I found out that he died, I would have been like, yo, like, I have to live with that now. The fact that I know I could have done something and I just didn't do it. How many people were on that subway train? Enough. Yeah. Enough. I'm speaking facts. So, that's my thoughts.
Let me just wrap this up real quick. Let me just mention one point that you mentioned, that you would intervene, and that's the hard part because, like I said, I've seen these situations unfold. I remember one specific example. These two guys were fighting on a train. I was in high school, and this dude was getting beat up. I didn't know they both were in a gang at the time. I just thought they were just two kids.
That's different. Yeah, that's
It's
a
different.
different scenario.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that's
different.
that. If two guys are going at it and they're fighting or some shit like that, like I'm talking about, it's a man-to-man stand-up fight. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
No,
All
no,
right,
no. But
yeah, that ain't got nothing to do with me. But
but
this situation is different.
no, it is different. But you know what? I've seen situations unfold where people help in the subway. I've tried to help. I've seen other people help. Now, luckily, I never been put in a situation where the people turned on me, but I've seen people intervene and then get beat up themselves. So that's why a lot of people in New York, there's a motto that we have. It's called "I don't see nothing, I don't know nothing, I'm out my business." Because so many times people do try to help, and they end up getting attacked.
Not in that situation, though. Not in the
No, not
Jordan
this
Neely
situation.
situation. There's literally no way that somebody just walking up to Daniel and saying he can't breathe. Can you please move your arm so he can breathe? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the heck? Oh, so he gonna get up and beat them up for saying that?
No, no,
The
no,
two guys that are restraining his arms are gonna beat them. Try to what?
no,
No,
no.
it's like all right. Like, let's say you remember the video where it was like it was the really tall guy and you had all the girls that were
Oh
like
yeah,
teasing
Red
them,
Ball
hitting
Jacket,
them, and
of
all of
course,
that, and then
legend.
he
Yeah.
turned around and then smacked her. A situation like that applies to the I don't see nothing, I'm not saying nothing, it ain't none of my business. Something like that, because it's really between him and them. You see what I'm saying? No one really is any real threat of dying in that type of situation. But Jordan Neely, you don't gotta fight nobody. Just move your arm so he can breathe. He can't breathe. You're restraining him. You're not killing him. It's a difference. It's a difference.
No, no,
There's
it's
no
different.
room for error at that point, in my opinion.
No, no, you're 100% right. But when you condition a society, for instance, like New York society, when you condition to tell people mind your business, um, people tend to do that, and that's why I've seen little kids get hurt. I've seen other people, women get beat up and stuff, and people don't intervene not because they want to see people get beat up, but it's just I don't know what this person's going to do to me, and it's just a condition for a lot
Well,
of New Yorkers
that's what separates. See, that this is the thing. That's why, like MCU, if superheroes are real and all of that, that's what separates the superheroes from the regular people. That's what separates the wolves from the sheep. Literally, because that's like sheep shit. Really, if you think about it, it's like, all right, well, you're conditioned not to do anything, so you won't do it.
right.
I'm not the end result of social conditioning to the point where if I see somebody that looks just like me about to die wrongfully, I'm not gonna just sit there because social conditioning of New York City dictates that I do nothing. Or the most that I'll do is record him dying instead of me just saying, "Hey, brother, my man, move your arm because he can't breathe. I see he can't breathe." That's the same thing. It's like Eric Garner said the same thing. George Floyd said the same thing. And I'm pretty sure Jordan Neely tried to, because you could see him. You could see facial signals like, yo, I can't breathe. No one hurt him because this dude's grip on him was that tight. And it's like, I would know if I choke you. I know what I'm doing. Like, I could tell, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've choked, I've had somebody in the headlock before. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have control in that situation. I could just, because there's a difference between me holding you there and me choking you there. And I literally, you can't see me because I'm off camera, but I'm literally like, going through that motion with my arm. So I know what it is. You have all the control in that situation when you Mr. UFC. When you successfully get somebody in that type of hold, you can control what type of hold is going to be. I could hold you there and I could choke your ass. It's two completely different things. So if I'm holding you to the point where I'm choking you, is because I meant to do that. The intention was to choke you. That's the intention. If I'm just holding you there, then I'm doing it right now. I could hold you and I'm just holding you there. But I'm choking you, it's because I meant to do that shit.
Yeah, but you know what, and
because you know that other hold, it's like you have them, it's like I don't know, you probably tell me what it is, but it's like if I have both my arms, behind your shoulders, and then I rotate my hands, the palms of my hands to the back of your head, and I'm holding you, and I'm pushing your head down. You get what I'm saying? That type of hold. You know what I'm talking about?
I know. I
All
think.
right, all right, all right. So
Hold on. I'm
imagine this:
trying
you're
to.
standing up straight, and I hook both of my arms over your shoulders. So that means your arms are now extended, out laterally, like outside, horizontally,
Okay.
because the position of my arms is forcing your arms to be like that. You see what I'm saying? Or they're dangling, and then my hands are just behind your head. You get what I'm saying? That type. I don't know what the name of that hold is, but you should know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah, I know. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, but that's because you know what, I've studied it and I've learned it. Like my agent does jujitsu, so he taught me. He's actually trained with some UFC fighters, so he's taught me. And besides what I know from watching UFC, but he's taught me some things. I know other guys who practice jujitsu and that type of submission, manipulation of body joints, so they understand that. But for the average person, a lot of people don't realize you could put somebody in chokehold and put little pressure and crush the not crush the trachea, but you can put them out cold. You don't even have to squeeze that hard. If you squeeze somebody hard, you can knock them out in less than 5 seconds easily. But a lot of people don't know that. So some people think, oh, I'm gonna just do a guy, put them in a chokehold and just hold it. But you don't realize that you're actually putting pressure. Anytime you flex your bicep, you're putting pressure. A lot of people aren't aware of these type of things. Now, it's hard to teach everybody about jujitsu because not everybody is going to be in a position to care or learn. But I do think this is a learning education for many people to learn. When you put people and when you're using your body to manipulate somebody, where you're putting them in a chokehold, you're putting them, you're capturing their leg in a certain way, you're manipulating their arm in a certain way. You could potentially rip their joints, you could knock them out or whatever, tear their joints. But a lot of people don't know that because they don't practice, they don't study, they don't learn this stuff. So for me, yeah, in that situation when I watched that video, I would have had the sense to say, "Yo, let him go." But for the average person who don't follow UFC, don't know about it, they just thinking, "Oh, he'll be fine. The police is on their way."
You
Because
are
I'm sure
damn dumb. That's why.
it's dumb, yeah.
You're
But
dumb. Mad dumb.
it's a rough situation. Like I said, I don't think anybody that day, Jordan intended to die. They intended to Daniels was intended to be facing I don't know how much life prison time or second degree charges, but I'm sure that's 10 plus years. Um, it's a rough thing. And I think, see, and let me mention something real quick before we wrap this up. But the case I was talking about where the dude put where the lady's husband put the dude in the chokehold. The reason why he got so, because I'm sure some people might say why he got so many years, is because the dude actually tapped out and he didn't let him go. So that's why I said the dude that was restraining Jordan should also probably be facing something because he's the one who restricted him from the chance of, tapping out, let him know I give up. But that's what happened with George Floyd. He was in handcuffs. He couldn't do anything. He just had to sit there and face the inevitable, and that's awful to. As someone who knows what that situation is, it's awful to see that your life is going to end and you can't do nothing about it. So
Right.
it's a hard one, man. It's sad. Jordan didn't get the help he needed, which he
Mhm.
should have. These dude, well, Daniel's probably going to be looking at some prison time. If he, to be honest with
If
you,
he goes to
I don't
prison,
think he's going,
I
just
don't
on the
think so
simple
either.
fact that Jordan had that prior history of violent acts. The jury's gonna look at him. He's homeless. He's black, and he's a violent criminal. Oh, he
Yeah,
he he did society a favor. So
yeah.
it's sad, man. It's if anybody takes away these situations, is you know when I say a helping hand is a better hand, yeah, it's catchy and stuff, but it's really it's about helping other people. Now, I do think, and that's why I had mentioned those people who was talking into media, talking about, yeah, I recorded it. I didn't do nothing, but I recorded because you had the opportunity. I saw people leaning down, checking his face, and not doing nothing. And I think a lot of people was there watching them do nothing. I think they was just waiting for the police to get there so they can, go about their day. But it's the culture in New York. A lot of people running late to work. A lot of people got their other lives. So many people, you want to help, but that means you got to wait for the police. You got to get questioned by the police. If you got a warrant, you might get picked up because you have a warrant and you was just there trying to help. A lot of people, that's just the culture in New York. Now, should that change? It should, but I don't see that happening
Mhm.
because, like I said, so many people try to intervene in situations and then they got to bite the dust or bite the bullet because someone turned their anger out on them. So
Mhm.
I see. I'm one of those people who's worked with many people on a what society deem on a low totem pole. So I have a little more sympathy for people. But a lot of people don't mess or understand mental illness. So when they see a Jordan on the train, they either running or they're gonna hurt them because they don't understand mental illness. They don't understand that they're going through something. They just think I don't want to get hurt by this dude. It's like, if a dude approaches you a little angry, yeah, he may not have a weapon, but you don't know this man. You just think I got to defend myself before he do anything to me. So it's a sad situation. I guess we'll see what's going to happen with Daniel in this situation. But this is really a wake up call to New York and any other legislator. Let's start putting these, people suffering mental illness and the homeless. Let's start giving them help. Let's not just leave these people to rot on a train on the street, and then we have vigilantes taking matters in their own hands and potentially ending lives just because our
Mhm.
systems are letting these people. Like I said, Jordan was already getting help 2 years ago, and they just let him walk out the facility. So, I mean, people aren't, giving these people the actual treatment that they need. So, like I always say, a helping hand's a better hand. Thank you, Dimitri, for coming on.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
this podcast is going to be available on all 30 platforms. Check it out. I hope you guys enjoy this. And just like I always say, a helping hand is a better hand. Take care, stay blessed, stay safe, mask up, and let's get the hell out of here, shall we?